What's up guys, it's Will back again, and today's review is Kingsman: The Golden Circle, a delayed review of Kingsman: The Golden Circle that is. Kingsman: The Golden Circle is an action-adventure comedy film that was co-written and directed by Matthew Vaughn and is a sequel to the 2014 film Kingsman: The Secret Service. Well, this time the Kingsmen have a new mission and a new villain to stop as they team up with the American version of themselves called the Statesman in order to stop the sociopath Poppy Adams and her evil drug-related plan. The desperate Kingsmen turn to the Statesman for help after their resources are all but destroyed, and the two work side by side as we watch our beloved Kingsman and the newly introduced Statesman kick ass and attempt to save the world. Okay, so Kingsman was definitely one of my most highly anticipated films of the year because I loved the first one. I thought the first one did a really good job of taking the standard spy formula and changing it up to provide something new, funny, and of course very self-aware. I don't think The Golden Circle is a flat-out failure, but it's definitely not a runaway success either. It's a mostly enjoyable comedy spy film that retains the look and feel of the original film but doesn't have anywhere near the heart. I think part of the problem is that The Golden Circle feels way more stuffed than the first film ever did. In The Secret Service, you were heavily focused on Eggsy and his transition and development as a character as he becomes a Kingsman agent. In The Golden Circle, you're focused on like 6 or 7 different characters that all have little subplots going on. This movie feels a little overstuffed. It's a sequel to a film that was large and high energy to begin with, so there's always that feeling like you have to go bigger and more exciting the second time around. The Golden Circle definitely does that, and it still retains that cartoonish, over-the-top action kind of vibe, but it kind of feels like junk food this time around. In other words, it feels like kind of a hollow experience for a couple different reasons really. I already mentioned that this film feels crowded, but it also seems to retread a lot of the same territory, and in a way that doesn't feel different enough to make it actually feel new. Plenty of films retread familiar territory in a sequel, but the trick is making it feel similar yet different enough to differentiate the films. And I think that Golden Circle tends to feel a little too similar in terms of its main plot and conflict and the action as well. So I guess this sort of comes down to what you're looking to get out of this film, because once again I enjoyed myself and I didn't feel like I didn't get my money's worth or anything, but I did walk out of that theater feeling a little disappointed because I expected so much more. I expected more because the first Kingsman film was really a refreshing take and a satirical take on the spy genre. We've seen a ton of James Bonds and Jason Bournes, and Kingsman was a very self-aware, silly, cartoonish take on the spy genre. I loved it for that, but this time around it has way less substance to it. It feels like a bag of Doritos for dinner rather than a somewhat well-balanced meal. It's not like the action doesn't look cool, it does, and it's exciting, but it almost feels a little too cartoonish for its own good this time. Like, it's humorous and all, but for some reason it's not nearly as exciting or impactful this time around because it feels bigger but not necessarily better, because it can oftentimes feel like a retread. I also think this film has a pacing problem. It occasionally feels like there's no flow and there's no build up to moments that should mean a lot more than they actually end up meaning. There's pivotal moments that dramatically change the tone of certain scenes, particularly one moment near the end, and they just sort of get glossed over. Once again, this movie struggles very much in the storytelling department because it has so much going on at once that it doesn't have enough time to make key moments feel as impactful as they probably should. Because this movie is 2 hours and 20 minutes long, and there's obviously a lot going on here, but the film never quite manages to make the narrative fit together in a way that feels all that cohesive. It's also kind of hard to get as invested this time around because there's so many characters and just so much going on. Let me just talk about the cast real quick though. There's obviously a lot of really talented actors involved in this project, but I do want to caution you that not all of them play hugely instrumental roles with tons of screen time like you were led to believe from the trailer. Channing Tatum and Jeff Bridges, two actors who were big draws, at least for me, are barely in this movie, and I mean barely, like 2 to 3 scenes barely. Halle Berry, another big draw for me, is in this movie, but not all that much either. Colin Firth, Taron Egerton, Pedro Pascal, and Julianne Moore are your big 4 actors here, and they all are absolutely fantastic. I love the acting performances of everyone in this film, but those 4 really killed it with this opportunity. I particularly like Julianne Moore in the role of Poppy Adams because she is a complete sociopath, but a mesmerizing one nonetheless. This seems like a role that you wouldn't ever find her in, but she really did an amazing job and was one of the bright spots of the film. Before we wrap things up, I just want to go a little bit deeper into some of the key moments. I think that there's really 2 huge things that happen in this film, and one of them you already know about in Colin Firth's return. I'll just say this, I get that Kingsman is a little, well, very cartoonish to begin with, but his return feels a little cheap to me. I love Colin Firth and I'm glad he's back, but the way it happens feels very forced. Anything is possible in this world, but this decision felt a little bit disingenuous to me. The good news is that Colin Firth does a nice job once again, and he's actually funnier this time around. I think that The Golden Circle as a whole is probably a little bit funnier than its predecessor actually, and all the actors have their funny moments, so there's more fun but less heart. But overall, Kingsman: The Golden Circle wasn't what I hoped it would be, but it's not a complete disaster either. I thought it had excellent acting from a great cast, cartoonish and fun action, and quality humor. Sadly, I also felt this film often lacked heart, the pacing felt a bit off, and some narrative decisions felt unnaturally forced in. Regardless, I'm gonna give Kingsman: The Golden Circle a 7 out of 10 and say that it is worth a theater visit for the action and good fun, but it's not the great sequel we were all hoping it'd be. Proceed with caution, and if you haven't seen the first, I'd pass altogether. So did you guys see Kingsman: The Golden Circle yet? What did you think of it? And if not, let me know why not. And also let me know whether you saw the original Kingsman and your thoughts on it. I really enjoyed the original myself, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. That's all for now though. This is WillFoxification signing off. See you in the next review.